And here we are. Hi guys, my name is Enrico, and I'm here today with Paul Tolchinsky, the co-founder of the European Organization Design Forum. Hi Paul.
Good morning.
And I'm here. Hello. And I'm here with Stelio Verzera, the co-founder of Cocoon Projects. Hi Stelio.
Hi there everybody.
Hello. So Paul and Stelio know a thing or two about adaptive organizations, which is today's topic. So we're going to kick off with a question for Paul. Paul, roughly, what do we mean by adaptive organizations?
You know, it's a great question, Enrico, because there are probably as many definitions of what an adaptive organization is as there are people who think about it and organizations who try to achieve it. And so, you know, the word adaptive conjures in people's minds lots of characteristics and practices, maybe. You know, I think from the simplest point of view, an adaptive organization is an organization that's able to make timely, effective, sustainable changes, right, that generate competitive advantage, that give them some leverage in the marketplace or in their ecosystem. And so an adaptive organization is one that's able to shift quickly, which means they need to be able to sense what's going on, maybe anticipate in some way. It means they need to be able to test, strategize, given what we believe is happening, what do we need to do, test, prototype, and then implement, execute. And, you know, and it doesn't necessarily have to be done fast, but certainly fast is probably considered a part of it. You know, in American English, we use probably 4 words interchangeably: adaptive, agile, flexible, those 3 for sure, right? And so it means any one of those things. Fast isn't necessarily adaptive. It's simply whatever the speed with which your market and your system moves at. Right? You need to be able to move as fast or faster than that environment that you're in. So, you know, when I think about adaptive organization, it's any organization that has the capability and the capacity to do that. Sense, strategize, test, do, right, in a way that enables them to move as fast or faster than the system in which they're trying to sustain themselves.
It sounds quite cool indeed. Very interesting to hear how in American English you have different words, and some of them might already be known by our audience, such as agile. If you were to tell us what they are similar to, what you would be saying about it. So if you were to describe or make, say, a metaphor about what adaptive organizations are similar to, what would you say? How could you describe that?
I mean, from my point of view, I thought probably my best example is the difference between a symphony orchestra and a jazz band. And for people who live in musical world, you know, a jazz band is an adaptive organization. It has some rules, but more it has ways of communicating and interacting in a way that allows you to adapt and change as the mood or the spirit or the energy, right, moves. So probably the best example and metaphor for me has always been a jazz band. You know, as opposed to a symphony orchestra with a lot of rules, a lot of structure, a lot of it has to be done this way, this way, this way. You know, so a jazz band is much more organic, right? It's much more flexible. It goes with where the energy goes. So I always think about that's my favorite example. And, you know, then you begin to make comparisons. You know, adaptive organizations in general have less structure. That doesn't mean that they don't have any, right? But they have less structure. They have less hierarchy. And partly it's because those things inhibit adaptiveness. And so the question is, how do you eliminate the things that slow the process down or make it more difficult to be adaptive? Right? And so jazz, everybody's equal, and anybody can decide at any moment if they want to pick up the pace or they want to slow it down.
I think you couldn't have chosen a better metaphor for this. It's just crystal clear. And how do you think we can achieve, the realization of this type of organizations? What will make them possible?
Well, I mean, Stelio can talk a lot about, because he's doing this right now in a number of organizations, right? The question is, how do you move from being a symphony orchestra or something like that to being a much more organic musical group?
Yeah. Well, part of what you said, Paul, already is very important. And I think it's about the role of rules. So how much you are able to have rules as an enabler, as a way of, let's say, playing the same sport, instead of having rules like something that actually limits the natural ability of people of being adaptive. And I mean people not just as individuals, but also as a group, because any group of people is inherently adaptive, but then they also need rules to achieve what they want. And the moment in which rules replace the principles and try to foresee and rule every course of action, then adaptiveness is hindered. It becomes impossible. So the first thing is switching from a rule-based operational mode, but also let's say design mode, if we talk from the perspective of how you design the organization, to a more principle-based. Then when you go into principles, you need, as Paul was saying, to have people able to understand the moment, understand what's happening, and implement the principles, translating them into actions. So there is a lot about people in adaptive organization. There is a lot about not sticking to the predefined roles, but actually using the diversity, the diverse qualities of people to play together as a jazz band. So they need to be aware of what they're good at, how they can learn from others. And different levels of feedback loops are key for that. So the organization as a whole, and also individuals or small groups within the organization, need to have the proper feedback loop dynamics. So that's also very important. And so on. Actually, I don't want to tell everything we'll be talking about in the masterclass, but there is a lot also about the relationship between the word adaptive and the word design. It's not just, when you say adaptive organization design, it's adaptive organization, but it also has to be adaptive design. So there is a lot about describing more than prescribing, and empowering the organization to evolve its own structures ongoing, on time. And of course, just to close it, there is a lot about governance. So that strategizing little bit that Paul mentioned, if you put it together with everything I'm saying about people, about sensing, understanding the moment, but also understanding the direction you're working towards, that becomes something can be real-time strategy making, but however you want to hold it, if it goes into some kind of, strategy is a planet, some kind of area of this planet. In any case, you need people to understand it well. You cannot divide people that decide what we're doing and why we're doing it from other people that have to execute it. That's a Tayloristic structure that works in a machine-like conception of the organization. Can be useful in some little scopes of complicatedness, but in the general complexity and variability of what we're witnessing today, that's no longer possible. So governance needs to evolve. And we've done a couple of things in that scope about decision-making, about governance structure, and so on.
Cool. So you started talking a lot about people. And so my next question will be, who would benefit from this new type of organization? Where do you see this happening as the most urgent, say, field?
There are, this is my take, then I would like to also hear Paul on this. So I think there are two sides of this answer. One side is from the single organization perspective. So if you're an organization today, when do you need to be more adaptive or to be extremely adaptive? And that's true. I think that's true in any market today, because things are so interconnected that even in slow markets, you need to continuously be able to make sense of what's happening and adapt how you work, the tools you use, the strategy you're putting in place, and even the structure that drives your operations. So this is one side. So there are slower and faster markets, but of course, in general, I think it's useful today in any situation. But then I think there is another side to the answer that is even more important. Once you start to spread this culture of understanding who you are, understanding the context, and being able to adapt to that, that goes far beyond the boundaries of an organization. You start improving things radically. You start not blindly following stuff, but asking different, deeper, and more important questions. And I think that's something that the whole society, the whole mankind needs in this moment in history. So I think that kind of adaptiveness is also a different look at things, understanding that things are not cause and effect, well-defined boundaries, 0 or 1, extremes or mechanistic behaviors, but we are beautifully complex as a mankind, as a planet and its soul. And this kind of shift, I think, is very much needed today.
You know, the thing I would add to what you just said, Stelio, is, you know, the human reaction to complexity is to try to simplify things. We want to make things simpler in order to be able to understand them. But the world is complex. And if you try to fix one thing without understanding how all of the pieces fit together and work somehow simultaneously and on the whole, right, then, you know, what we've learned is when you work on one, you don't work on the others almost always cause failure. So, you know, adaptive organizations are able to look at the complexity and to manage it in a complex way. So you need people, you need processes, you need practices that enable that to happen. You know, the workshop we're going to explore, you know, what would some of those things be, and how would you do them, and what would they look like? You know, in one organization I work with, we talk about fail fast and fix it quick. It's okay to fail, right? But it's not okay to not fix it quick. You know, and so out of failure, you learn. But how do you create a failure culture that isn't about failing, but about finding the right solutions, experimentation, innovation, and things like that? And so you need to explore what kind of people do you need, what kind of processes do you need, what kind of practices do you need? And I think this, you know, adaptive, when you say what organizations would benefit, probably all. But, you know, how they would apply it is different. As Stelio said, depends on how quick or slow the market's moving. You know, if you're in an industry where things are relatively stable but complex, that's a different answer than if they're unstable and complex, right? And so I think everybody can sort of benefit from this discussion and deliberation, right? Stelio, I mean, maybe the last thing to talk about it is, you know, in the workshop we use Lego Serious Play as a way to get people to explore and to look at and think about what would it look like and what are the implications. We create a hands-on experience that Stelio is an expert at. You know, so maybe Stelio, you can say 5 words about, you know, because I think that the key is the exploration to how and what do we need to be adaptive about.
Yeah, Paul, I couldn't have said it better. What Lego Serious Play brings into the mix is the ability of using what people think, but also what they feel. So not just what they know, but also what they feel about their organization, their aspiration, their fears, their ability of contributing, their vision. So these kind of things, and of course, make out a real-time strategy or an adaptive strategy and help having the possibility of also real-time adaptive structure in the organization, which is also very, very important. So I agree that Lego Serious Play adds this to the mix, and just to add a little bit on top of that, it helps us not fall into the trap that today I see a lot of thinking that there is an off-the-shelf solution for adaptive organizations. You can call it with whatever fancy name, and you just open the instruction book, and then there you go with your adaptive organization. This is simply impossible. It's context dependent, as Paul was saying. There are as many definitions for an adaptive organization, for as many organizations exist in the world. So actually, Lego Serious Play reminds me and will remind the participants of that. The same workshop with Lego Serious Play, you just change the people and everything changes.
That's really awesome. I couldn't have asked for a better interview where all the questions I had were already answered. So thank you very much. I just wanted to ask you. Sorry again?
I say I thank you. I look forward to meeting you in person.
It will be awesome. So I'll close with some cool news. You might have understood that we are hosting a workshop with Paul and Stelio in Rome. That will be on the 26th and 27th of March. The title of this workshop is, as you might have understood, Adaptive Organizations with Lego Serious Play. What to say? All you heard is really, really interesting. We really look forward to seeing you there. And before closing, I'd like to ask Paul and Stelio if they want to add anything.
Yeah, let me start thanking Paul for jumping into this adventure. I really look forward to this trip together. I have some names of people that already bought the tickets. And Paul, I think we're going to have a great fun. It's amazing people coming.
Awesome.
Well, so we can't wait for that. We hope to see you as well. And that's it for now. So thank you very much, Paul and Stelio. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Bye.